Hello and welcome to the Eradicators. I am your host for today, the Eradicator, and in this video we will talk about Star Wars Squadrons, and we will especially be looking into what possibly went wrong for the game that was meant to be the revival of the space combat sim genre within the Star Wars universe. We'll be looking at the possible reasons as well as the consequences they had on the game itself, as well as on the Star Wars community, and what should Disney do in order to avoid these mistakes from happening again. Now, the Star Wars franchise used to be quite prolific within the video game industry, with its golden age happening between the likes of 1994 to 2006, when the now defunct house publisher LucasArts used to treat the fans with the saga with several titles per year, some of them memorable, some of them forgettable, but the overall feeling was that LucasArts was trying its best to satisfy the fans with a never-ending flow of adventures and experiences that were authentic, immersive, and especially that remained faithful to the original spirit that drove the fans in the first place. One of the genres in which the developer became famous for was the space combat simulation genre, with the likes of X-Wing, TIE Fighter, X-Wing vs TIE Fighter, X-Wing Alliance, and the expansion of Star Wars Galaxy's Jump to Lightspeed, which was LucasArts' last attempt at recreating proper space combat within the Star Wars universe. And sure, there were other games like Wars Squadrons or TIE Fighter or Jedi Starfighter, but these games didn't count. I know I'm quoting Obi-Wan, but these games were more arcade than actual simulation, so we will not be counting them. And when Star Wars Squadrons was announced by EA, I was, just like many other people, torn between feelings of immense happiness that finally I would get my hands on a Star Wars game that would cover my favorite genre, and aspects of also George Lucas's saga, and the fear that Kathleen Kennedy's notorious story group would try to add as much wokeness as they possibly could, something that we've seen in almost every Disney Star Wars movies and productions, of which Lucasfilm's controversial president had been overseeing. People are going to say that there has always been politics in Star Wars, and that is true, but under George Lucas it was always subtle, hidden hits of messages that you wouldn't even notice if you were unwary of the political situation of the US, or if you were foreign to US politics. That is why it worked. If you wanted to ignore it, you could ignore it, and it left enough room for imagination to keep you immersed into the fictional universe without bringing you back to the reality. With Disney, this has no longer been the case, and this is why so many fans left and now regard the franchise with indifference at best. And so this brings us back to Star Wars Squadrons, which could have been a great story about a squadron of the New Republic fighting Imperials, while also a squadron of the Imperial Remnants fighting for the Empire on a quest for survival. Unfortunately, the protagonists of the Republic side seem to be spending more time brainwashing the players on why they are the good guys, as if they need to convince themselves more than the players themselves, who already knows it anyway. During the campaign, when talking to your squadmates, you get the obligatory preaches about the patriarchy, and all of your squadmates are strong, boring females with absolutely no charisma, which just turns everything into a long, tedious drag. Fortunately, Wedge Antilles makes an appearance to save the day, but just like with everything in Disney Star Wars, he is nothing more than a marketing tool, a lure to make you believe that you'll spend some time flying with him by his side, while he is in fact only here for one mission and then he is as good as gone. The same can be told for the Imperials, which are just caricatures, to be frank. The only relatable character, your squadron leader, eventually can't help himself but to reveal his alternative sexual life, which came completely out of the blue, and quite frankly, no one cares nor wanted to know. But enough with the politics, this is the game we're talking about in the end, so let's talk gameplay. And here, if we stick to the campaign, it is unfortunate that the most interesting mission you get to play is the starting mission, which is dynamic, has multiple phases, like a lot of the other missions to be frank, but also involves multiple Imperial Star Destroyers fighting rebel ships of various sizes, and really it gives a sense of how epic the Galactic Civil War is compared to the New Republic era, in which the war is basically over and only a few isolated cells remain on the Imperial side. And the rest of the game precisely takes place during this period. Gone are the epic battles. We get at best a single Imperial Star Destroyer against some frigates and corvettes and maybe a calamari cruiser, and that's basically it. And the same game assets keep getting used over and over again, the same missions get repeated over and over again, and by the end of the campaign, the mission starts getting as boring and tedious as the narrative itself. When I finally finished the game, I literally made a sigh of relief, as I was just glad to have finally completed so I could talk about it without having to play it again. So by now you know that there isn't much replayability, at least for the single player experience, but what about the multiplayer? After all, EA placed most of its hopes on the competitive aspect of the game, and while the game does feel balanced, which is a quality that we will not deny here, it still suffers from the same flaws of its single player counterpart: repetitiveness. Apart from the Yavin map, all of the maps are more or less feel the same, with a lot of asteroids or obstacles to fly around, which can get very annoying because it brings interference to pure dogfights, which normally should require escaping and maneuvering skills that are focused on your opponents only, not the surrounding objects. And they also feature the same assets and configuration all the time: an Imperial Star Destroyer versus a Mon Calamari cruiser with some frigates and corvettes on both sides, and that's basically it. The scenario is always the same, and it quickly gets boring. The only additional content that was ever added were 2 fighters that were missing from the game, the B-Wing and the TIE Defender, and clearly that was not enough to keep players interested. At the time I'm writing those lines, a little less than a year after the release of the game sports a mere 500 players on Steam and 50 viewers on Twitch, while as a comparison, over 1,000 people are watching Star Citizen streams at the same time. So there we have it, the reasons behind yet another Disney and EA Star Wars fiasco. At least, according to the latest rumors, it appears that Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out, and that Dave Filoni, the man behind the Clone Wars and the Rebels and Mandalorian series, along with Jon Favreau, seem to be taking the helm at Lucasfilm. So, combined with the fact that EA will lose its exclusive rights to make Star Wars games, one could hope that better days are lying ahead. After all, we've fallen so low that I cannot imagine how worse it can get at this point. And that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, please help us grow this channel. We've reached over 600 subscribers in just a couple of months, which is great. The channel keeps on growing day after day, and this is thanks to your support. So if you want to keep it up and help us keep it up, please give this video a like and subscribe for more gaming content. This has been the Eradicator. I'll see you guys later. This video is brought to you by the people who support this channel on Patreon and via the join button as well. Supporters of the channel get access to lots of cool perks, such as access to my private Discord, your question answered in the show, you get to know when I'm going to play, and also you get to have a chance to influence the editorial line of the channel. Any help is appreciated, starts at just $1 a month. Thank you very much for watching. This is the Eradicator, and I'll see you guys later.